Just got to. Hello, we just got to adjust slightly. Just adjust the stream slightly so you don't actually have the top of my head disappearing. So I might just drop my seat down. So there we go. Let me just get organised here. I need to get the stream up on here as well. Just bear with me. Just bear with me. Hi guys, just bear with me 2 seconds. I'm just trying to get the stream up on here so I can see the questions, you see. Got ya, brilliant. There we go. So just got to make sure chat's on. So just want to make sure chat's on, guys. So if one of you, a couple of you can say hello if you're in the house. Give us a hello. Brilliant. That'll do. Hi, Kieran. How you doing? Hi, Tony. Hiya. Right. I'm not going to try and look at that screen too much. Right. We're getting them up on there, so that's really good. Right, okay, we are off and running. Well, thank you for joining us. Now, just first of all, just like to say hello to Kieran, hi, Tony, Alan, Jake Howick, and Natalie. Hello, everybody. Well, thank you for joining us. Can you hear me okay, first of all? Give me the thumbs up if you can hear me okay. Apart from that noisy motorbike in the background. Can everybody hear me okay? I'm not... It's just apple juice. Don't thinking I'm drinking on the job. Right, good. Right. Emma isn't with me tonight because she says she doesn't really know a lot about house design. So it looks like it's just me, but I'll keep you entertained. We'll be fine. So you're now in my office. In where we live in Telford in Shropshire, and you can see on the wall there, up the top there, they're actually a picture. I'll show you. Look, guys, that's a picture of a collage of my favourite house designs. Look. Of all time, and including that one there, which is the Bowers house type that was named after me. So somewhere out there, guys, somebody has somewhere out there, somebody has got a house named after me. I don't know whether that's a good thing or not, but well, there you go. Anyway. I've just got to sort this stream out because that's better. So, guys, thank you for joining me anyway. Tonight, this live stream is all about house design, one of my favourite subjects. So we're going to look at the various, the story of house design and how we've got to where we are now, whether we're going backwards or we're going forwards. That's remain. A lot of you guys are probably living new houses, but every single house that a developer builds has got some kind of history behind it. And that's the kind of thing we're going to look at tonight. So we're going to, first of all, I've got a little sort of sheet here which gives me, it's going to give me all of the information, all of my points and stuff that I've got to raise. So new houses, let's talk. So I'm going to actually, so if you've got any questions in between that, just fire them away and I'll answer them as we go through it. So new housing, most of you have probably got a new house, as I've already previously said. And, at the moment, we know that if you buy a house, a lot of people, you've got a choice, haven't you? I suppose it's like going to a supermarket. You go in and there's so much choice, and you don't know how good something is until you try it. So, for instance, So for instance, you go into Asda and there's a new kind of baked beans, but there's 30 different brands of baked beans, and you want to try, but the only way you've got to see is to actually go and buy it and eat it and try it. Well, that's like house building, isn't it? And the web is full of sites that say, oh, you don't buy this house, don't buy that house, don't build from this builder, don't buy from that. Every single builder has its problems with snagging, and that's just the nature of the beast, isn't it? I'm sure we've all, God, how many cars have you bought that have just been, you've had problems with just after you've bought it? Well, that's it. We appreciate that we're human and things just don't go to plan, or sometimes you just don't get what you want or you expect. So with that in mind, the most important thing about anything like that is putting it right. How quick does the developer jump on it, put it right, and deliver that customer service to you, saying, look, we've messed up here, hands up, we've messed up, what can we do to put it right? That's the important thing, isn't it? And some people, what the developers have done, if anything, they're not happy with, and that's why they go and they want to tell their story to basically put other people off or pre-warn them about something. So that's kind of where we are at with house building, isn't it? So let's go right the way back to, I'm going to just pull up some on my screen here. Just going to pull up some on my screen because I've got my house building info here. Right, we're going to go right back right now. This is a great website. This is the LABC, and this talks about house designs. Okay, so let's look. So what is the average house size? So we're going back into the 1930s. Okay, so in the 1930s, but houses in the 1930s were actually a little bit bigger. So let's go back to the 30s first of all. So the 1930s, oh, hello. The 1930s was all about that arts and crafts era where, developers were building the suburbs of London, and they were coming all up the country, and they're so they are so like, what do you call it? Unmistakable, that kind of design. And actually in the 1930s, I think developers were allowed to express themselves, and they were small family firms in them days. They really were. But you end up having really beautiful looking houses, which, funny enough, Redrow are copying that era right now as we speak. And that's why the arts and crafts era will never ever look tired. So in the 1930s, it's saying that houses are quite small. So an average living room in the 1930s is 16.1 square meters. Okay, 16.1 square meters. The average master bedroom was 15.34 square meters. Okay, the kitchen was 12.27 square meters. Now let's bear that in mind. Okay, so let's get this figure. So we're 16, 15, 12. Okay, bedrooms were an average of 3.21. Okay. But remember, the 1930s houses were all basically, most of them were semi-detached, and those suburbs, built around the crescents and stuff like that. Okay, so let's fast forward now. We're going to go straight the way through, and we're going to go to now. Okay, so an average living room of a house in the 2000s was 19.75. Okay. The average master bedroom was 13.64, and the average kitchen was 13.34. 44. So let's bear that in mind for the 19.75, okay? 19.75 for a living room, okay? So living rooms have grown bigger. Bedrooms, 321. Bedrooms have got slightly bigger. So bedrooms have got slightly bigger, haven't they? A little bit, right? So 291. Hang on, am I telling a lie there? No. So the average bedroom in 1930 was 3.21. Okay, the average bedroom today is 3.42. So that's how much it's changed, just tiny, like a little bit. Okay, so let's look at the kitchen. So an average kitchen is 13.79. So we have actually going back now. So yeah, 2000 actually is 2.95. 2.95 square meters. So actually what we're saying is houses, living rooms have got a little bit bigger, but actually let's go back now into the 1990s. So 1990s we were 21.33 for a living room, 22.6 in the 80s, 24.89 in the 70s. So they're getting smaller. So there you go. That's the proof. The proof of the pudding there is in the eating, isn't it? That houses are getting smaller. Okay, so let's look. So we've got the 1930s, which were predominantly semi-detached properties. Okay, 30s, 40s, 50s. Moving on. Okay, let me just get that back on the screen there. Okay, just bear with me a second. Okie dokie. Okay, so the website that I'm on is the LABC. Okay, the LABC. That's their website. Okay, so actually have a look at that, because it's very interesting statistics of actually where we're going with house design. So just Google LABC and then you'll be straight in there with that. Okay. So yeah, so these figures are for UK wide, okay, only the UK, okay. So we've got the 70s. So sorry, the 50s. So right the way through, the semi-detached house was king, okay. Now I've got to apply the plans here, so I'm just going to go right back, and then we'll go into. We're going to come back. So the 1960s, for instance, okay, the 1960s. So we've come back, the semi-detached house is still king in the 1960s. We've got a big growth of expansions of existing towns. The new towns movement is going on. We've got Letchworth, we've got Letchworth, we've got Runcorn, we've got Telford, we've got Milton Keynes, all growing rapidly into the late 60s, 1970s. So what happened in 1970 then? So the 1970s was an interesting kind of era, wasn't it? So unfortunately you're going to see these pictures backwards, which I know is I know you're going to probably think this is backwards, but you'll see that picture backwards, right? So that's the Lockley. Now this is a typical 1970s original leaflet from a 1970s house. So if you had a little bit more money, you could then, in a 1970s house, you could potentially buy yourself a detached one. But these type of houses were completely uniform in rows. Okay, so a lot of developers, that's where they gained their strength. It was in the 1970s. So you had a lot of developers coming up, like Proting. You had the likes of Whittington, Bovis were about in the 70s, Westbury the later end of the 70s. All these big developers were enjoying working on these new towns and providing the private housing for them. So going on from that, so the 1970s. So let's have a look. Let's have a look at some typical house prices. Okay, let's look at some typical house prices for the 1970s. Okay, so I've got some examples here on my screen of some. This is from 1977. So let's have a look of what we've got. Right, okie dokie. Right, okie dokie. Okay, right then. Now, you could buy in 1977, you could buy a 4-bedroomed, and I'll just have a look at this now, yeah, a 4-bedroomed detached house, okay, with a double garage and a nice garden, all of the works, okay, type 4 for £16,000. God, I'll tell you what, how many of those could you buy now? £16,000, okay? 3 bedrooms, okay, we're going in at 14,000, okay? So that's that is pretty tasty in price, isn't it, back then? So sort of in the late 70s, a lot of the developers then started cottoning on where like I say, a lot of these new towns were developing, but with those new towns were lots of jobs, businesses. Like I'm going to use Telford for example. During 1977, it was Telford's growth era, and they invited a lot of new developers, a lot of businesses to come in from Birmingham, the Black Country, over to here and bring their businesses here, where they will give them a factory, they will give them their employees jobs and a house. All of that was offered on a plate to them. So that's why business came here. But all of the people moving into the Telford development area, they were quite happy with the corporation houses that were built. They were giving them away, but the business owners themselves, when they move over, they want something a little bit more special, don't they? They want something a lot nicer. So they will end up going into some of the new housing estates of the late 70s, where you've got your typical detached house with a double garage. They don't really, not much to look at really, but they were, the variety was there. So I think generally during the 1970s, house building I think you kind of pushed the boundaries a little bit and got bigger houses, and that enabled a lot of the developers to make a lot of money. Okay, just looking at the comments as well at the same time. Yeah, and that, as you say there, we're just talking about back to the 1930s, the stained glass and the leaded windows and all of that sort of thing. Yeah, that all disappeared, but it did come back, which I'm going to move on to in a minute. Okay, so the 1970s enabled a lot of developers. This is where the Tarmac Group, the mighty Tarmac Group, were busy. They were buying up other companies. All of these big developers, Barrett's for instance. Now Barrett's were interesting because whereas Barrett's as a company, they were specialising in small houses. So you're leaving a lot of the bigger developers to, bearing in mind there was probably none of the big ones we've got now, but Barrett's, they had their own range of house types, and they had their first apartments and stuff like that. Semi-detached houses, it's quite funny. Some of the house types that are being built today, their descendants go right back into the 1970s. So there's a rich history of house building. So let's go swiftly into the 1980s. Okay, so the 1980s was another sort of interesting time. Okay. I'm just pulling this out here. Just 1 second. There we go. So the 1980s. So the 1980s, that was probably one of the best years for house building. So much was going on. So all these big towns were still being developed and expanding. Developers just were snapping up the land. And one developer in particular, a consortium brand known simply as Tarmac Homes. I know that's backwards, but Tarmac Homes. The Tarmac Group were based in Wolverhampton, and the basic what happened with them, and they were basically, as you know, Tarmac are a company that are a construction company, so to speak. And what they ended up doing is buying lots of other companies. So Tarmac went into business with I'll just show you now. Went into business with the McLean Group, okay? The McLean Group. John McLean and Sons, who was already an established house builder in the Midlands. They then bought up the company Midland and General Homes, and then McLean Homes went nationwide. Tarmac went nationwide. All over the country were Tarmac sites, McLean sites, and stuff like that. So, you know, that shows how, you know, a Midlands-based company is able to, and don't forget, a lot of these companies were Midlands-based originally. For instance, we have got, you know, like I say, Tarmac was Midlands-based. The Bryant Group were Midlands-based as well, started by Chris Bryant, and they went on and formed. And what the Tarmac Group were able to do is to take that gave them the buying power to actually take on sites, multiple sites, and like if, for instance, in Telford, there's various different house areas where they've been built by the Tarmac Consortium. So you'd have Midland and General on the site, you'd have McLean on the site, you'd have Tarmac on the site. Then they decided in the 90s to start a brand of houses that just concentrated on starter homes, and they created this village concept. So it enabled them to get very big very quickly, and this is it. Persimmon were the same. Persimmon, Broseley, Ideal, all of these companies were absolutely growing at a massive rate. I'm just checking. That's just having a look. GT Bell, ILO, Ian Blair. That's right. Just looking at that. Yes. So let's have a look. So what happened in the 80s? Well, the 80s, Tudor frame houses made a comeback. Okay, now I think Tarmac were responsible for a lot of this because. So let's look at a simple enough 1980s house. Right? So that's the Raglan by Tarmac from 1984. It looks pretty simple, doesn't it? It's a pretty simple house that you would see on any other housing development. Look at that lady. Doesn't she look happy? She looks happy to have that Raglan, doesn't she? So this is a site from Perton in Wolverhampton. Price 85,000 on that. So prices really risen then. So that was part of Tarmac, you know, and then Tarmac through the 90s, we ended up through the 90s, you had house types like the elm look. So all Tarmac's designs were all named after trees. Okay, so you can see that quite a nice looking house. And what Tarmac did, the clever thing that Tarmac did is they basically kept the palette for the housing. So they had the similar tiles, similar brickwork throughout all of the development. So they kept it simple. But one thing that was different about the Tarmac houses, and you'll note on the side of the Raglan, you can see there, the chimney. Tarmac actually brought the chimney back. And they also brought the leaded windows back, look, see? The leaded windows. So they were building the same house types. And they're actually similar along the brand. So they brought back the chimney, so you were able to have a proper fire with a flue built into the houses. So that when, you know, let's read the description on the elm, okay? So we're talking 87 for this, okay? So let's see how it describes the elm from 1987. Leaded windows with natural wood surrounds. Can you imagine that now? Natural wood surrounds complete the attractive appearance of this delightful family home, which has a large double garage with an up and over doors. From the pleasant entrance hall and the spacious lounge with its walk-in bay window. So that was another thing. The bay window was quite popular as well, wasn't it? The bay window came back in the 80s. Okay. So what were the other developers doing? Well, the other developer was McLean, as I've said before. McLean, you'll see at the bottom there, part of the Tarmac group. Look, see, that they were still building similar houses, similar tiles, but that hint of Tudor really made the difference on those houses. And these were built across multiple developments. Okay. So they then went on. So there's another example, is the Cambridge by McLean. Look, you'll see that house type on many different developments all up and down the country. Just slight differences. You'd find that Tarmac would be building these elsewhere, or it could be Thamesway Homes. The same designs were used, and that's how they got so big so quickly. So, as I said to you, Tarmac then saw the market of the late 80s where people were actually wanting smaller houses now, and they brought this range out here. So they started this company called Gothridge and Sanders. So what they were able to do is build smaller houses, smaller houses on sort of informal group developments. Look, so they were quite nice, quite nice. Didn't last very long, to be honest with you. All part of the Tarmac company, and they were building apartments. McLean was still building these apartments right into the 90s. So that's one monster company that was king in the country. Another big developer was Wimpy. Look, Wimpy Homes. Now, who can't forget the cat and the adverts, the advert and the cat. So look at that size of that house, that 80s house. For that is a 2-bedroomed terraced house. Okay, so let's look at some of the size. The size of the bedroom is 12 foot by 8 foot 9. 12 foot by 8 foot 9. Look, with a kitchen at 11 foot by 5'11". Now that's what you call a mini house. Okay, that's a mini house, isn't it? Okay, so that brings us quite nicely into the 90s. So by the 90s, a lot of developers were getting very big. For instance, McAlpine were, Proting were, Barrett's, Second City, Westbury, Clark, Midland and General Homes, McLean Homes, Welland Homes, the Tarmac Group, and Beezer Homes. All of those companies were really doing well for themselves by the time the 90s rolled in. So the 90s started off with some developers building smaller houses. Okay, now what was going on then is this enabled developers like Redrow to evolve their designs. So that's who we're going to look at now. We're going to look at Redrow. So Redrow were pretty much a 90s, an 80s and 90s house, an 80s and 90s house builder. So a lot of the house types you see, a lot of the house types you see today from Redrow have a very rich heritage. Now I'm going to exclusively show you these house types. Okay. So we're going to start first of all with the 1980s Canterbury. So there you go. There's the 1980s Canterbury from Redrow. Okay, you can see it's got that beautiful hipped roof, that Tudor frontage, plus that leaded windows. That disappeared, didn't it? Redrow, throughout the 90s and into early 2000s, stripped their house types back. They got rid of all of these house types, all these beautiful house types, and the early heritage range. They were gone. But thankfully, Steve Morgan came back into the company and rebirthed these house types. So you've got the new Canterbury, which is being... So look how different that is to that. So, question for you guys. Which do you prefer? The old Canterbury or the new Canterbury? What do you think you prefer? Come on, answers in the box. Old or new Canterbury? Okay. So there's the Canterbury done. Let me just have a drink. Ah, so you prefer new. No. Okay, that's fair enough. Stripped of the character. Yes, okay. So let's go on with our next house type. We all know them. So we're looking at the Windsor. Okay, there's the Windsor. Quite a standard looking 4-bed. It looks pretty nice. I think it's a tidy looking house. Okay. It's a tidy looking house. Really is, isn't it? Really nice. Okay. So what did that look like before? It was this. It was the Buckingham. So the Buckingham, quite a nice house, got the typical hipped roof. So let's have a look at the two together. So you can actually see it, can't you? You can see what they've done with it, can't you? So what do you prefer? The Windsor or the Buckingham? Interesting, eh? Interesting. Let's have a proper look at that again. There you go. Okay. Before I carry on, Oliver's asked me when did countryside come on the sea. The countryside have been around right, pretty much in the 80s, really. I think they were sort of called countryside homesteads originally, was what they were named. In actual fact, let's just hold on a minute. Hold on. I think I just 1 minute. I just need to get a book. Okay. There we go. Right. So I've got my book. So let's have a look at. This is the House Builder Bible. Okay. I don't want to speculate. Okay. Comburn Homes, Costain. Just bear with me. Crest. All these names of these long gone house builders. Look, tell you, Cousins. It hasn't got it in there, but it was called. So this is the book. It's called The Dictionary of House Building. Really good book. Actually, I think it's only. Well, it says $44.99 on there, but I know it's not that much. But yeah, so they were actually, I think they were called something like countryside homesteads or something. I've got some of the literature on the computer, and they were renowned as a high-end house builder countryside were, but now they have expanded. Maybe we'll cover countryside in another video, and we can look at some of the history. So going back to Redrow now. So let's have a look at the new Redrow Warwick. Okay, there's the Redrow Warwick. Check it out. What do you think of that? I think the Warwick looks a good house type, doesn't it? So the Warwick's a 3-bed, or if it's lifestyle, it's a 2-bed. But good looking house, isn't it? So what did the original Warwick look like? Are you ready? There we go. There is the original Warwick there, look. See? It doesn't that look different, okay? They've taken away the bay window, but they've kept the little toilet window there as well, but it's got a hipped roof. So let's get that in a little bit more. There you go. So this is from my archive, these are. So that's interesting. That's changed. Do you prefer Warwick, the new Warwick, or the old Warwick? Very, very interesting, that house type there. I'm just looking at some of the, yes, the Buckingham by far, it is, it does look, it just does look. Now, someone's just asked about Leach Homes. Leach is, I'm just going to look in the book here, so I'll give you a little bit more info about it. Leach was actually part of, it was by a guy called William Leach. There you go. There we go. There's the Leach Homes. Let's have a little look at Leach, okay? So, it basically, listen to this. Leach Homes evolved into Beazer eventually, but they were actually quite a big developer. And apparently, it says here in '81, Bellway tried to take over Leach. So it looks like they become by 1972, 1973, Leach's was in the top 10 of house building. So that's quite big. But Beazer had them, then eventually Persimmon had them. So their peak, William Leach's peak, was in 1973 with 1,888 properties. So, and funny enough, his working life, William Leach was actually, he started house building, was started in 1932. He was a window cleaner. He was a window cleaner. All these humble beginnings of these house builders, eh? He was a window cleaner. You can't argue with that, can you? Right, okie dokie. Some of the, unfortunate, I'm going to go into Persimmon shortly, Tom. All of the new Persimmon designs are all just evolved out. They're just fresh designs. I'm going to show you some of the original Persimmons shortly. So let's carry on with the house type. So we're just doing Redrow at the moment. So there's the Stratford by Redrow. The Stratford is the 4-bed, isn't it? Quite a good looking house. I love that rugged, you know, I'm going to say it, rugged render. Okay. Now you are not going to believe what this used to look like. Okay. But what's happened is it's kept its name. There you go. So there's the Stratford. Now look at those two together. Now you're wondering how have they done that? Well, actually, I think what they've done is made the house bigger by taking that frontage out a little bit. Have a look at these people there. Look at them. Look at them. Look at that. So what do you prefer? The Stratford, new Stratford, old Stratford? Oh, it's worth looking at, isn't it? It's worth looking at. Okay, finally, I think we'll go right up to the top of the range now with Redrow to the Balmoral. Okay, now you know we've reviewed one of these Balmorals before. I'm not sure whether it's a quick shots one or not, but the Balmoral is here. So the Balmoral was known as the Grosvenor. Look, so let's get them two in the same zone. So the Grosvenor, the Grosvenor. There you go. Don't they look different? So I don't know. I actually prefer this, the Balmoral version of it. So what we know is that the designs have evolved from other designs, haven't they? Okay, we know that they have completely. So let me just ask a few questions. Yeah, John just asked me what happened to Beazer Homes. Well, funny enough, Beazer evolved out of the Second City Homes brand, started by Brian Beazer, and they basically the Second City brand, Leach as well, all in the same pot, and I think with the merger, what happened to them is that Persimmon, unfortunately, they fell to Persimmon at pretty much the same time. Westbury did as well at the same time, and it does disappoint me, the immense portfolio that Beazer had of different house types. Now, I mean, I have a cupboard at the back here with every single house plan from every developer you can imagine, but unfortunately, Persimmon took on Beazer and then ended up just basically scrapping all the designs, although the odd sneaky one does pop in every now and again, you know. Okay, so we're going to go in now with our next developer we're going to look at is Bryant. Okay, now Bryant Homes. So this is your typical Bryant Homes brochure look. See it? See it? So this one is, we're in the 90s, so we're in 1990, okay? Now these were the executive home was king. So you can look, oh look at it, it's falling apart. Look how old that is, tell you. Okay, so these are your typical Bryant houses, okay? Take a look at them. There you go. Now this particular one here, which is called the Precedent, is it the Paragon? The Paragon. It's actually being used at the moment still by Taylor Wimpey. So as we know, Bryant fell to Taylor Wimpey, and yet actually out of all of the house builders, I would pretty much say that Bryant, Taylor Wimpey, have used the most Bryant house types in the construction. But obviously before it was Taylor Wimpey, it was George Wimpey, wasn't it? So you can see there the George Wimpey brand there. So there's one of their original house types, and they basically were building a lot of high density houses kind of in the early sort of late 90s, early 2000s. So what I mean by high density is a lot of houses squeezed together. I mean, you can see that those houses there, look, you've got the built-in garage, etc. Very interesting. So one of the other ones we're going to look at is Barratt, for instance. Okay, Barratt's our next one we're going to look at. Now, as we know, Barratt's have a new range of house types out. You're probably over the last kind of probably 6 months seen the house types filtering through. It's just apple juice. You'll see some of the designs filtering through. Now, to the unknown eye, the thing is, if you remember the Barratt range we had over the last kind of eight years or so, we had a whole new sort of range of house types, didn't we? Which, like the Halstead, the Harborough, all of those different house types and they had that sort of detailing around the windows, didn't it, in that big brick branding. So they've stripped back all of that now. That's all gone. And now what we've got is a sort of stripped back Barratt range. So what they've actually done is Barratt's have gone back to their Premier collection, which they must have just stored in a locker. So the Premier collection ran from sort of the mid to late 80s right the way through the 90s into 2000, and the Premier collection was their range of house types, but they had different types of like things. So here's a good example. So here you've got an original Premier collection brochure look. So you can see at the top there, that's the Precedent range. So each of the different house types, size-wise, I mean, that's probably one of the biggest designs they do, the Davenport. But then if you look at the other one, which is a Marlborough, that's in the Embassy range, okay? The Embassy range. The Shrewsbury, the Embassy range. The average 4-bedroomed houses. The Connaught, Embassy range. Average sort of average housing. Then you've got another big one, the Davenport. Back to the Davenport, that's still in that we've just had a variation of that. So you can see that the Premier collection, tell you what, they spared no expense on leaflets, did they? I can remember getting these in the 80s and looking at them thinking, I could barely see that floor plan. I mean, they actually have the worst floor plans ever. I mean, look at the size of that. Tiny, tiny. So they brought this new range of house types out, but they're not new. They're not new at all. They are old, very old, just stripped back versions of their house types. As simple as that. So let's have a look at what we've got from Barratt. And here's some of the house types that you might recognise, you housey people out there. You might recognise them or you might not, but these are being built right now. This is Barratt's new phase, and we are going to review them very, very shortly. So One of the first house types. Now, bearing in mind, these what I'm going to show you are Barratt's 90s to 2000. Okay, so there you go. So there's the Radley. That's being built now, completely stripped back. No bay window, no render, no nothing. No hipped roof, no detailing, just basic, okay? Basic house type, okay? I think that is a beautiful looking house, I do. I think it's nice. I can see that with a nice detached garage there. Beautiful hipped roof on the top there, okay? So let's have a look at the Maidstone. Now the Maidstone, that's the semi-detached terrace version. You can see there with that Maidstone, beautiful detailing on it. You know, though you've got a nice gable, a bit of, you know, a nice sort of tiled roof there. Now that has been completely stripped back completely. No gable, no nothing, just a basic looking house. Maidstone is on sale at the moment. Okay, same as the Rosebery. That's the same, stripped back, basic house as it is completely. Okay. Palmerston, one of Barratt's and premier house types. The Palmerston, absolutely stripped back completely, basic. Okay, go on, you're on your computer now. Google Barratt Palmerston. Go on, do it now. Open up a window and have a look, and you tell me what we're doing. One of the house types is the 3-bedroom Buchanan look. Look at that one there. Look at the detailing on that. Really nice house type, isn't it? That's been stripped back completely. No hip roof, just a basic looking house. The Gloucester. Now that is nice, isn't it? Twin gable there. Really nice looking house. Now that's kind of now evolved into, I think it's called the Tewkesbury, the Tenby now. But look at that. Lovely looking house, isn't it? But there's another version of the Gloucester look. You can see it's getting this. That's Mark 1, that's Mark 2. So you can see that it's actually devolving as we speak. One of the other house types is the Ripon. Now I think the Ripon is a beautiful looking house. It really is, isn't it? A really nice looking house. I just think it's just gorgeous. And that again, that's been stripped back. No bay window, no hipped roof or anything like that. You know, it's just as basic as it gets. So, but that's what they've got to do. You know, look. People are buying these houses, so there is a demand for them, isn't there? So you know, it's important that they make money. And a lot. Why? You know, we've got to ask a question. Why are these houses like this? So let's go back. Let's go and have a look at David Wilson. So David Wilson have been kicking around for a long time, haven't they? Now David Wilson, like Charles Church, were built on big houses. They're beautiful range of large houses. So let's go and have a look at some of those. So we look at that one there. You can't argue with that. I think that is absolutely beautiful. You've probably seen this on the In-Betweeners, because the actual In-Betweeners is actually filmed on a David Wilson estate. So there you go. So David Wilson. Do you know one other point to raise? Let me just go in, check out the David Wilson logo. Note the slippers in the dog's mouth. Go and have a look at the David Wilson logo now. There's no slipper in the dog's mouth because they lost it because they thought it looked a bit too old-fashioned. Okay, so now we're getting into. Let me just answer a few of your questions first. What we got then? Let's have a look now. So, which homes have the largest gardens or space for parking? I think one thing that is happening now is they are going back to. I've said this on the live feed a week or two back. That developers are going back now to actually giving you the standard driveway up to your house, and the you know, you're never going to get a double garage, are you, with a 4-bed house anymore? Not unless it's a really exceptional one. But But gardens are getting bigger. I think gardens are really lucky on whether you get what plot you get, really, because obviously corner plots are more likely to have a bigger garden. So I'm just looking through the yeah, Mark just said, you know, what do I think about the merger with Bryant and stuff? Well, they're asking me, out of all of the mergers, what do I think that Taylor Wimpey's designs are? Taylor Wimpey have some really good designs, and they've evolved from house types that are classic. They've got the typical 90s 2000s footprint, so you've got a good footprint. So houses like the Aldenham were the houses that McLean built, the Aldenham, and the Aldenham came from McLean. The Haddenham, that came from Midland and General Homes. So actually, though, those houses are being built all over the country, have actually probably their origins are from the Midlands. It's really funny that happened, really. Yeah, so I think that what Taylor Wimpey have done is they've taken the best of the best and actually run with it. And it's funny with George Wimpey, before they came Taylor Wimpey, they become George Wimpey because they teamed up with Wimpey. But obviously the Wimpey bit was they did an asset swap, swap minerals with housing, blah blah blah, and George Wimpey then decided to build their own range of house types, which I've got. But then they haven't really, not many of them have been carried over to Taylor Wimpey, and Taylor Wimpey have really pretty much decided that they're going to have all of the merger house types instead. So it's nice that they've actually done that. So good question, that one. Yeah, so that is the question, and this is why I want to champion architecture. I think it's Joseph said about how, you know, what our house is going to look like in the future, like a bode and things like that. You think it's with Redrow, and it's timeless. It's a timeless design. They could build the Heritage Collection forever, and it will never ever look old. I think Bovis are the same. They've gone back to that kind of that look, haven't they? And they've gone back to that where they used to be, and their houses are going to be the same. They're not going to ever look, you know, ever going to look dated or anything like that. But you're paying a lot more money for those houses, so you know. It's like that shop, going back to that thing about shopping, you get what you pay for, really, don't you? If you want a Persimmon house, you're not interested in the bells and whistles, that's fine. Most people will just buy the house and then move on in a couple of years' time, sell the house, make a bit of money on it, and then get something else. That is quite simple. Yeah. Yeah, the Taylor Wimpey, Udale and Easdale. She's asked me. I've been asked if I've reviewed the Taylor Wimpey, Udale or Easdale. The answer to that question is no. We've reviewed. I think it's the Eskdale. They're all kind of similar. I think there's a range of houses like the Eskdale, the Udale, and they've got all sorts of funny names. They're all basically the same house design, and they just do a different name for it. So what we're going to do now is I've kind of got a few brochures left now, so we're going to look now. I don't know whether this stream cuts off in an hour up for the hour, but we are coming up to the 60 minutes mark. But if it does, I'll just pop the stream back on. Okay, so we're going to now look at Charles Church. Okay, so let's have a look at Charles Church before they were Persimmon. Okay, so there you go. There's a brochure from Charles Church there. So there's a Charles Church house before it was Persimmon, and this is a development in Camberley in Surrey. So that's where they came from. Okay, Can you see that? So let's have a little look. Let's just go into the house builder history, and let's have a look at. Let's go and have a look at Charles Church. See what it says about. See what it says about them. Okay. Okay. Let's have a little look. Okay. There it is. Right. Charles Church developments. Okay. Let's look at a bit of history. So their peak, according to this book, when it was written, their peak was in 1989 when they completed 742 units. Okay, so that was their busiest. That's their busiest time. I bet that's different now. So Charles Church was the son of a farm labourer, and he studied civil engineer at Regent Street Polytechnic before joining the construction company in 1961. His entrepreneurial drive was soon evident by the age of 11. He was encouraged by his father, who to manufacture breeze blocks on their land. So basically, he basically started work as an engineer with Turf and Lang, who were big construction company, and then started his own civil engineering company, and then they built their first house in Camberley in Surrey. Now, how ironic is that is the development in Camberley in Surrey? How weird's that? So basically, I think it was Charles and Sue. That's it. So Charles Church has been incorporated in 1972 with Charles and Susanna Church as equal shareholders. So, oh, that's quite interesting. So Charles, the original name Charles, guys, came from. Let me just pop that back there. The original name Charles was actually killed in a Spitfire crash in July 1989. Charles Church was still only 46 and was killed when a Spitfire he was piloting crashed. Wow. I wonder what he thinks of I wonder what he thinks of the brand now, to be honest with you. But you know, they were renowned for these big houses. Look that they were building. Now, you know, look at these ones here from Milton Keynes. Look, guys, look at those. Remember that Hepburn Chase? That's what I call Charles Church, and that's what I think Charles Church needs to stick to, building houses like that. You know, because what happened is the Persimmon brand, Persimmon Homes, started evolving, and this is a Charles Church brochure. Now, as you know, as well as I do, they have different names, but they are still the same Persimmon designs, okay? So, there you go. Here's another development by Charles Church called Maplecroft. So these are quite basic looking houses, really, but still small developments, as you can see, okay? Now, let's look at the evolution. Let's do a few more questions, then we'll look at the evolution of Persimmon Homes. Okay, I'm just... yeah, Barrett window frames. Yeah, they are grey. They're kind of sprayed now, aren't they? They're kind of like a powder coated type of ones. Yeah, right. No, do you know what? Actually, I think a lot of the basic looking houses has a lot to do with the local authority, because they can insist on certain styles being built, and that's probably what they do. Where you it's a good example here. Okay, good example for you. Okay. Unimaginative Stoke-on-Trent City Council. Okay. Unimaginable Stoke-on-Trent City Council. Let me say it again. Persimmon designs from Minton's Wood in Stoke-on-Trent, Clayton Corner, and the Clayton there. There was one with the corner look. So quite, yeah, get it, yeah, you got it. So let's go to Bishop's Cleeve in Gloucestershire. Okay, let's go there. Let's have a look at the Clayton there. Okay, or the Chedworth, one or the other. There we go. There we have a look. There we go. Check them out. Now, don't they look a lot better? And that's in rural Gloucestershire, look. So, so let's look at where they came from, okay? So, Persimmon Homes, they made their success on buying other companies. Started in Fulford in York. And Persimmon is named after a racehorse, okay? So, the first merger that they did was Westbury. So, this development here was started by Westbury Homes, okay? This is under a Persimmon brochure, okay? So you can see here, and that's the Leicester, which is still being built by Persimmon today. So by then, Westbury Homes had actually started stripping back their designs anyway, and I think ultimately that was one of their biggest mistakes. So, you know, Westbury used to build really nice houses and then they stripped them back. I mean, you look at that vista, look at that. There's just nothing inspiring about that at all, is there? So they took on the Westbury site, okay? But Persimmon, that was they were Westbury designs. But Persimmon, they were building houses like that. That's quite a nice house type, isn't it? They have your typical Persimmon house back in 2000 odd was this lovely, this wood turned this sort of porch, you know, brick detailing, brick banding, etc. Looked really, really nice, doesn't it? Then, like here, another little site. They're quite good looking houses, aren't they? Really, for, you know, we're not going to argue with that, are we? A lot of wood on the Persimmon houses, look. So, we had that. That's where we were at. Then we had the recession. So, I think a lot of developers had to strip back the bells and whistles and come up with something fairly simple, didn't they? Okay? And that's really what needed to be done. So Persimmon, whether it's genius or not, actually produced a basic range of house types, okay? And those house types were built all over the country. Ones we know, like the Hatfield, the Sota, the Clayton, the Rosebery, the Kendall, all of those designs are as simple as they come. If you do want a house and you don't want all the bells and whistles that go with it, buy a Persimmon house. It is as you can't say any simpler than that. Okay, so clarifying, where have we been then? Where have we been and where have we got to? So we've now got Barrett's, we've got Persimmon building stripped back houses, okay? Keep it simple. The business model worked for Persimmon unless a local authority insisted on something a little bit special, which is what we had with that one I've just showed you. So you can actually, there are some really nice Persimmon developments all over the country that have got they've got hipped roofs and detail, and it's all about the local conservation and what they like. Like places like Telford, where it's a new town, there's really no conservation, nothing to compare it with, so they will just build the basic houses, maybe whack a bit of render on it, you know. But what they tend to sort of do is you will see that when you look at a street layout, you will probably notice that they have what they call key point houses in the street. So they're normally on a corner. That's why the Clayton corner was invented, so that they can change. They can have the variation, so they can have a nice half rendered corner of the street and the opposite side. So that's why they replicate the same design across the way. then fill in the rest of the street with houses that haven't got any further details or any other detailing on it at all. So that's what they kind of do. But then you've got house developers like Redrow who are running with this whole new the heritage, which has been going on for a few years. The only disappointing thing with heritage really is that I haven't seen anything exciting. It'd be nice to see some new Redrow heritage house types coming out. But I have one thing to show you, if I can get it. I do like to keep abreast of what else is going on in the area. So this is a brochure called The Steeples in Oxford. I am going to go and review this because it's beautiful. Nice, beautiful brochure. Just check out that. Now this is by Redrow. So this is something a little bit different. It's a big brochure. This is, spent some money on this. Look at it. Oh, fine dining. Look at that. It's like a magazine. But check out these. Look, check out that lounge. Check out that bedroom. Surely we've got to review that. Look at that. Anyway, what is the Blenheim? So what am I talking about? There we go. Let me have a look. There it is. So where I'm saying, so that is Redrow Homes. No, come on. Tell me that is beautiful, isn't it? So this is a small, this development is even the smaller houses, the semi-detached houses, which look, see those there, don't they look really good? But that's Oxford for you, Oxford and Cambridge. It's all a bit bonkers up there with the house designs, isn't it really? I'm just gonna refresh my page over here. I don't know if it's still on. I think it still is. Just bear with me a second. There we go. We're on still. Okay. So where have we come with house design? We are as, I don't know. It's just a mixed bag, isn't it? You've got some developers doing really good housing developments. You've got some that are doing basic ones. I suppose ultimately it's what you can afford and what you really want. So I'm going to go over to the questions now. Okay, so you feel free to ask me any questions about any of the developers or anything, and you tell me what do you think. You tell me of some houses that you think, and I'll look them up, and we'll see. So if you've any questions, fire away, whack them on the chat, and I'll answer them. Okay, let's just make sure chat's working all right. I'm just going to give me 2 seconds. Okay. Could somebody out there just, that's it, we're back. We're back. That's it, Mark Johnson. That's it. Okay. So we're so like I said, Cambridge is one of those. Cambridge, even though Cambridge and Oxford are historic cities, they still are really forward thinking in terms of their design, and they want really contemporary house design. So I think a lot of developers could really kind of they could really learn a lot from that business model. Okay. Berkeley Homes, yeah, but Berkeley Homes. I can always remember we did a Berkeley. I can remember. I can't remember where the development was now, but we did a review. We were going to do a review, and we were kind of going in there and kind of hoping we could just get on with the review and just review the show home and get it done. But the sales lady just insisted on. It was one of these where the sales centre was actually right at the top of the development, but the show home was right in the middle of the development, and so she just insisted on us going there, and then she insisted on showing us around, and we never ever was able to film it because I just thought we'd wasted a bloody at least a good half a day. Oh, don't even go there about that one, you know. So we never ever got to review them, but we certainly would like to. But they do build really nice houses. But they've expanded a lot now. Berkeley have, where they were a real kind of London-based developer, where they used to build really substantial detached houses. I can remember sending off when I was a kid to some of the Berkeley developments, and they were outstanding. But they've kind of gone a little bit more mainstream now. So keep your questions coming in if you've got any about any of the housing developments. I'll just update you on Showhomesonline and where we are. We are currently, we've had approval off a national house builder for us to start reviewing their developments again. So we'll hopefully start doing those in the next few weeks. We've just got to book a few appointments and get them done. So we are really on the ball now. We're starting to get things together, and we really looking forward to catching up with some of the house designs that we've missed. So everybody, you know, when I walk around the show home, and I think a lot of people sort of, some of the YouTube comments we get, oh, you know, what does he know about house building? What does he know? Well, that's it. I hope I've proved this evening that, you know, I am a house building historian, and you know, my archive, which I've shared with you tonight, you know, that's an extensive archive. I mean, I've got folders of every Taylor Wimpey house type, you know. So let's get these questions done. Okie dokie. So this is a question from Sue and Simon. Hi Steve, what do you think about Keepmoat homes? They are only a few of their homes among your reviews. Yeah, Keepmoat are, I would kind of say with Keepmoat, they're more of a regeneration specialist. So Keepmoat tend to like to concentrate on developments that need regenerating, like brownfield sites and stuff, and we're quite lucky to have a developer like Keepmoat. Keepmoat evolved out of the Halsome Homes name originally, and they have a very simplistic house type range. You know, they're not, you know, and they do keep it simple. A lot of render, but there's some really nice house types, and they're building a development near us over at Lightmoor Village. That's the only, I think they've only had like 3 developments in the Telford area, but you know, they tend to sort of concentrate, like in Stoke-on-Trent, they've got a regeneration site there. But generally, a good house builder, I think they're very guarded. They don't overly advertise their product at all. So, but actually, yeah, we've only reviewed a few of them. It's just as and when we see them, really. Yeah, James. Yeah, the Ketley. That's that thing with Persimmon homes where they rename all different house types, and you really have to. If I showed you the David Wilson folder I've got behind here, where you've got 5 different house types of basically the same house but under different names, it is quite crazy. Yeah, with I mean, yeah, it's James also mentions about add-ons and stuff like that. Yeah, all these bolt-ons that you get, and they literally are bolt-ons, aren't they? You know, like a lot of properties now are coming with USB plugs as standard. But yeah, you've got to add all of these bits and pieces on to make your perfect house. But then, you know, I think a lot of developers now can't afford to do this all-inclusive thing. I mean, Bovis, they run with the pretty much the all-included type thing for a long time. Joseph said he's looking at Keir Living. Yeah, Kia Living. Now I'm not actually sure. Let me just check with Kia Living. I just want to see if I Let me just have a look. Yeah, if you can see here, Kia Living. One of the things with Kia Living has been up for sale. I'm not sure now whether it's been bought or not, but yeah, Kia Living was actually, they were looking at selling off. Kia was selling off their house building brand, and I've been keeping an eye on them for the last few months because I was just wondering whether our site in Telford had changed hands, and it'd come. But I will do some investigating to find out. Yeah. Oh, so James has said that you still are trying to sell Kia, but actually they actually, like our development in Telford, they're really nice houses, but they're not. I don't think Kia are natural house builders really. You know, they've come into this quite late in the game, as some developers have. They've come in late in the game as a house builder, and it's kind of, you know, you've got to be made of strong stuff to survive in this world as a house builder, I would imagine. You know, yeah. So he's saying that what. Yeah, so that's a good question from Mark. What future do we predict for small and medium house builders? Well, one thing I know is Bovis now have an interesting things happen with Bovis. Is that Bovis have now joined the Vistry Group, and the Vistry Group is basically part of Linden Homes and Bovis Homes, so the Vistry Group. So, and obviously, as we know, the guy from Linden went into Bovis, and obviously that whole Linden influence has worked well for them both. And actually, I hope that means that we can review Linden as well at the same time. So that would be good. You're right. We haven't talked about Bloor Homes. I mean, Bloor Homes again are a Midlands-based company. Now, if I remember rightly, let's get the book out. With Bloor, I'm sure Bloor Homes own a motorbike company. Let's have a look. Okay, let's have a look. That'd be interesting to find out. Bloor Homes, or JS Bloor, as they're known as. Let's have a little look. Oh, so many developers in here that have been and gone. Let's look in the index. That is, if there is an index. Yes. JS Bloor. Yeah, they would know. They would just do it like that, wouldn't they? JS Bloor. Just hold on. There it is, 51, page 51. Let's go in and have a talk about Bloor. Just bear with me 1 second. This is the Bible. 51. Bloor. Yeah, I was sure it was something. So Bloor had their peak year in 2002 with 1,870 properties. I wonder how up to date this is. I'd love to rewrite this book. So John Bloor has been one of the most successful house builders of the 20th century. He left school at age 15, having spent only 6 months at school between the ages of 12 and 15. So he didn't really like school much, did he? Due to illness. Oh, that's why. He established himself as a self-employed plasterer. So that's where the name. So where's the J? So it's JS Bloor. So we'll find out, won't we? He was a self-employed plasterer. While in his teens, he worked briefly for Clark Homes and then built a few houses as a sole trader before forming the company JS Bloor in Burton-upon-Trent in 1969. The company traded on a small scale, though very profitable. So it's been going a good old while now. Just there it is. There it is. Yeah. So the company set up Triumph Motorcycles to develop a new engine. So yeah, they had but believe it or not, then Blore have a lot to do with Triumph Motorcycles. So there you go. There you go. There's a little bit of information there. Yeah, and it is actually Blore is one of the originally privately owned house builders, and there's a few of those knocking about, isn't there? Anyway, guys, we're gonna if there's any more questions, I'm going to wrap it up. So next week we are going to talk about, so we've talked about house design tonight and how that's evolved over the years and stuff like that, and you've had a good look at some of my material, haven't you? So you know what we've got, plenty going on there. So you can't say to me on YouTube, no, what does he know about new houses, because I have the archive. I've got the book and I've got the leaflets to go with it. Worth getting that book, actually. You can find it on YouTube. I do have brochures on Bellway. I do have brochures on of Bellway from the 90s. I have got a good Bellway range. One day I will scan them all on and put them online eventually. But next week we're going to have a talk about about buying a house and why and what you're going to look for. So we're going to be looking at your journey from the moment you start looking for a house. What are the best ways of doing it? Where can you go? What can you do? What are we looking for when buying a house? So we'll go right down to the grassroots, and we will have a look at that buying process. Because it's just, we haven't just got the internet. We're going to look at all sorts of different mediums for home buying. Okay, so that's going to be next Sunday, guys. Okay, but I'm glad you all joined me this evening, and I'm glad you enjoyed it, and I didn't bore you too much. And I hope we've all learnt a little bit about this, that, the other, haven't we? And now I'll keep an eye on Showhomesonline, and I'll update you, because we are going out reviewing houses shortly. Okay, and I've got a few, and the first we will have an upload next weekend of what some of the backlog of the house designs as well. Okay, so thank you everybody for joining me, much appreciated, and hopefully I will join you again. Okay, now how do I close this down? Oh, hang on a minute. Oh, you see we've got it on there, but we can't turn it off. Oh, yes. Right, here we go. Oh, there it is. That's the one. Guys, take care. I'll see you soon. All right.